I have been procrastinating on making this video for an extensive period of time for me. After the 7-month hiatus I took from creating videographic content on here and on not safe for work sites, once that period of months had reached its conclusion, I wanted to get this video underway, but truthfully, I had no real idea how I was gonna go about doing so. This upload was supposed to be, or more so, the contents of this upload were supposed to be included with the last upload. But because of my very apparent lack of motivation to actually record it, and me delving into and taking longer for me to explain than I had anticipated it would, the monumental health crisis that I had been enduring for 9 months since my return to the Canadian province of Ontario, of which I am now really truly beginning to recover from. But I was so just consciously detached from really going any further with recording that video. Not to mention, it was in, well, the early hours of the morning, so sleep exhaustion didn't exactly help. Just to preface before going further, in regards to the health problems I've been facing, I'm not explaining anything more in major detail of what I was personally experiencing over the last nearly a year's length of time, because that's what the last video just ended up being. So you want information on that, go watch it. What I detail in regards to where I'm at in life right now, obviously those events will be woven in to what I explain, but you know where to find the rest of the information. So these past 10 months have been both simultaneously the most devastating and exuberant times of my young years. In terms of that exuberance, some amount on par with my traveling experience, my expedition to Canadian far north, but also standing alone for themselves. I'll also state, if you notice that I'm not looking directly at the camera lens for what will be a good chunk of this video, good observation, and don't be perturbed by that. I'm testing something whilst doing this. Digital psychological test, which, if it works, which I feel like it is, I'm not gonna fully explain it on this channel. I'm gonna explain it, what I'm doing here, just in terms of my communication. It's not, I'm just warning you right now, what I'm testing, it's not coming back into play later in the video. I'm just going to briefly mention it in another upload on this channel, and I'm going to start utilizing it if it does in fact prove to be beneficial. And then I'm going to talk about it in my first upload to the new channel I create, specifically for my theoretical work. So just, you can keep that as a mental note. Because I want to see okay, I guess I'll give a bit of a insight. I want to see what my personification is going to do in terms of projection. I have come to, since having returned to this region of Canada and being back with my immediate family after nearly 3 whole years of being physically distanced from them, and nearly an entire year of having no amount of long distance communication with them. And then later on, towards the end of my expedition, potentially nearly losing contact with them unintentionally for a portion of time. There's been so many developments that I really don't know where to begin with talking about them. That's really the main reason why I've been putting this recording off. But I knew that for my want of consistency, and because I do actually, I want to inform my audience of it, and anyone who's just joining the A Damn Slice of Cake phenomenon. About what's happened. So let me start with just, I guess, explaining this. In the last upload, towards the end, I had stated that I don't want to keep making videos like this. Or more specifically, I don't want to keep doing content on A Damn Slice of Cake. And that was not just a bout of extreme that was not just an extreme depressive response. I really do not want to continue. I don't want to continue this channel. I really don't. Now, many of you are definitely, at some level, or on some level, curious as to why. Well, firstly, if you recall back to when I was in Labrador City, in the video entitled "I'm Done Engaging with the I'm done engaging with the insane of the proletariat. Be leftist to save yourself, not humanity." I said that a damn slice. This channel is not going to last forever. I do want to, at some point, retire it. And I said that it wouldn't be, to my recollection, at any point soon, like within like that set of months or that time period. And that I would be making a second channel, maybe a third. All that still remains. And then I mentioned in the recent upload after my hiatus, entitled "I've experienced a wondrously weary life, made mistakes, and done the greatest thing a kid can do," that the retirement of this channel would be roughly in a year. That also still stands. But now I have to answer why. Am I just sick of doing it? No, not necessarily. Or am I sick of uploading content? No, because I'm gonna be making another channel. Is public visibility just too much? Nope, not in the slightest. I think that's still quite clear. So what? What is making me want to bring this adventure to a close? I guess realistically, in regards to most YouTubers who have channels that pretty well are a dedicated project or ongoing experiment, an actual career out of making online material. Realistically, why would something that I've continuously dedicated a lot of time and effort to, and I've made it, as almost all creators online do, intentionally or unintentionally, pretty well oriented, not my life, but my life's, maybe for my life it's gray area, but not necessarily made my life oriented around it, but made my life's presence oriented around it. If that makes sense, or you understand what I mean. Or my life's work. Presence or work. Whichever one linguistically you feel a stronger sentiment towards, that accurately describes what I'm talking about. How you're interpreting it. Why would I want to, especially with all I've done, cut it off with only a year's time remaining, which is, given what I'll be caught up in, is going to run out steadily. Because, one, there is quite literally, I genuinely don't think I can do anything more with this. I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, I mentioned this in the community post I made before taking the leave that I did upon return, that I've never come across, and let me state, channels like mine, similar content does exist, which I am aware of. I just haven't seen it. But for the amounts that I have come across that are similar in some form, and I guess I meant by that is, in that post, that I've never, the format has never been like mine. I mean it. I've never seen, oh, and yeah, for anyone who has a problem with this, as all my videos that are commentary based seem to be, it is oriented around flattering myself extensively, especially this time. So, you have a problem with it, put it in the comments. I'll be sure to read through it. Or go on your way. But I've never come across, even with the intentional suppression by YouTube systems, I've never come across content that's been formatted in the way that I've done so, and with the amount of variation that has been produced. And I've spoken, certain people who I've come into contact with along my journey, my traveling expedition, who I've given the information regarding my online content, and they've looked through it, who have agreed with me that, yeah, your uploads actually are, on a surface level, quite differential, quite unique compared to what is out there. And at first, when I had left, starting at when I had left the city of Toronto, after witnessing the abduction, kidnapping of an individual, that threw my pre-existing morality crisis into a whirlwind of complete and utter frantic disgust with myself. Starting at that point, when I had chosen to continue making content and documenting my journey, at first I didn't I never intended it to be like to be displayed as such. I never intended it, especially at first, to come about in the manner that it eventually did, especially with my municipality exploration series, the multiple series I did on documenting areas of cityscapes, townships, and villages throughout my route within Canada. At first, it wasn't something that I was readily aware of. And then at a certain point, probably I want to say I think it actually hit me when I was in the small landlocked city of Côte-Saint-Luc, Quebec, completely enclosed by the city of Montreal. I think it hit me pre-consciously. I had more intellectual awareness to this unique presentation. I think it hit me then, cognitively. And it only that became even more apparent when I started creating pornographic content over on Pornhub. For those of you who are aware of my content on the hub, or for those of you who are here on YouTube who have come from Pornhub, no pun intended, okay, sorry. it became my content over there for also far more than the YouTube counterpart of A Damn Slice of Cake, the much more short-lived channel over on Pornhub, still up, will remain up as long as it does. Hopefully so. Especially over there, I can safely say, as even though Pornhub also suppresses specific content, doesn't seem to be near as much as YouTube. But over there, I know from actually getting confirmation from viewers, commenters who were responding to what I was trying to do with the videos, same format, same general layout as this, just plus more tantalizing features, I guess. I can safely say there has not been anything else yet like my content on Pornhub. No way. Like, seriously, especially for a solo independent creator who was not affiliated to a studio, who was not one of the platform's membership premium performers or solo performers, anything like that, who was independent. Never, I get, yeah, there hasn't been, as far as I can tell, any content like mine, like what mine was on that platform. So in that way, that was digitally revolutionary in some manner for my work. Same can be said, as I've been pretty well getting at, lesser so than on Pornhub, but still, as I said, uniquely presented here on YouTube. Seriously, over on PH, I made 2-hour bits of content, of commentary, of trying to incite, and I was giving in-depth philosophical and sociological, socially scientific examinations over there before the sexual displays began, and it didn't, all of this didn't really hit me until later. And even, okay, I'm not intentionally, even now that I'm aware of it, whatever content comes after this, I'm not intentionally trying to, well, I am trying to make something educational and actually healthier to view. But, well, I guess that's just a byproduct of it. Because in a network of shared media that is so purposefully distorted by complete and utter social garbage. It to actually make something that's enticing and stimulating, that isn't overstimulating, it has to be it has to be different in some manner. And so back to the main point there. One, I've done everything on this channel. Everything that someone in my position making content could possibly do. Literally done everything. There's nothing more that I can do. And nothing more, for partially because of this reason, that I want to do. But on top of that, so two, the second point is because, and I really come to embrace this, because I just kind of, when you all really need to understand, when that major morality and existential crisis hit my mentality, and I went and the issues with my home life at the time as it was escalating, and when I had run away from home and I had gone out, I had decided that I am leaving this city. I'm leaving the city of Toronto. I'm going away from my home municipality. I'm living on the streets as a primarily homeless, nomadic individual. Purposefully. When that moment hit, I was just ready to give up any I didn't say it because I don't think I had maybe just conscious defense mechanism. I wasn't, my subconscious wasn't ready to integrate it and admit it. But essentially what when I made the video update, things are very uncertain, leaving Toronto alone, right at the start of all this, I was ready to throw away any semblance of normalcy that I had been accustomed to prior. I really was ready to say, fuck all of this. And in essence, I mean, in essence, I did say, fuck all of this. I was ready to just that was the first point in my life that I was really ready to just see what came. That I still had, that was the whole duality of my emotional struggles. I still maintained my, at the time, I logically ran through my moral values, what I was aware of in terms of, for someone who is aware, has for the longest time been aware of what, or try to intellectualize as to what I do and don't believe and why I believe that. Even whilst still maintaining that in some form, I was looking for, I went on this journey because I was, and I said it right at the beginning, in the first few videos after I had left, well, the bulk of my content after the first bit of the bulk of my content once I had left Toronto, I had stated it, but to reiterate it, I was looking for, I was either looking for complete clarification to my worldview, or I was looking for, if I didn't receive some clarification, I was looking for something to definitively prove me wrong, and then show me the way to something true. Show me the way to something better, something real, something that's not a falsehood. And what ended up, okay, you know what? I'll talk about, did I find that? Did I not? later on in the video. But even though, so when I was ready to give up everything that I had really become driven towards before, when I was at that point of just saying, enough, I'm done, and I'm going to do this, and if it kills me in the process, then it kills me. Which I also know now, those fears are over-exaggerated for what my situation was. It is culturally over-exaggerated. It is a purposely extensive sensationalism towards homelessness. And, well, pretty well just a complete lie. It's a delusion that certain financial demographics are convinced of, and ethnocultural demographics. But at that, what I didn't, when that was all happening, as it transpired, what I never took time for a good long while to really mill over in my thought process and analyze was the fact, which I have now come to understand, that I don't want to be a YouTuber. I never wanted to be a YouTuber. Never. And I wanted to be, in some form, a content creator. I had initially plans all the way back early on in my childhood to be a pornographic performer, an actor initially of some kind. And then, even before my whole YouTube endeavors went off, I wanted to be a pornographer for the reasons that I've stated prior, and I still hold in regards to my beliefs of sensualism, of human connectivity through it, of needed sexual expression for myself, for other individuals out there who are exploring, who have intensive sexual urges towards, I have no other word other than just connection and interaction through means of sexuality, which is so true, which is not sex addiction, which is not that'll be for later on. So I had that want before all of this. But in regards to being this kind of content creator, a commentator, a vlogger, a sketch comedian, a documentarian, I never wanted any of that. I never really did. Some of it I wanted to try at first. I wanted to try it. I had thought about it, and I wanted to experiment with it. And then I wanted to see where it led, but then I wanted to stop it. People, a damn slice of cake? This was literally one. I created this account literally I created just to save playlists. I created to save music playlists and actually save videos and put a like on them and save them. That is what I initially created this channel to do, and it was under a different name. Damn duh. Like damn, the English swear word, damn, and then the Russian word duh for yes, or translating to the English language as yes. And I used the Russian Cyrillic alphabet. In regards to Cyrillic, that's also a correction I need to make later on. It was called damn duh. And I also mentioned in part 7 of Exploring Ottawa, all the way back then, that this wasn't even my first YouTube channel. This wasn't even my first attempt at uploading public content. All the way back when I was living in the United States, in the city of Fargo in the American state of North Dakota, for 6 years of my childhood, I had a YouTube channel, a publicly available YouTube channel. It's gone now. It's in cyberspace somewhere, where I actually, and this is, and I talked about it in Exploring Ottawa Part 7, how I had made some exploration video, what was not to the length that these, what's on this channel, nothing at all to this extent. But I tried making videos about exploring the city of Fargo all the way back then. And I also did film reviews. I was doing terrible film and video game reviews on that channel all those years ago. But then I had to get rid of it. And then I tried again for some content, and then I had to get rid of it again. And then when it eventually came to a damn slice of cake, when I changed the name of this channel, I had uploaded, so the first videos that are on this channel are the Minecraft videos I made, showcasing, which I am so damn proud of. I'm so damn proud of and so happy with. Showcasing the cityscapes that I had built in Minecraft, one which was inspired by just a pseudo replica of the fictional underwater city of Rapture from the video game series BioShock, and then a floating cityscape in the clouds that once again was just a pseudo replica of the fictional city of Columbia from BioShock Infinite, and also it was inspired by Laputa from the Studio Ghibli film Castle in the Sky, and also inspired by a certain real life location, which I will also mention at the end this video, closer towards the end. And it has significance, a lot of significance, that real life cityscape municipality. Things really do come full circle. But in all of this, when I started, after I had uploaded those videos, the initial Minecraft videos, I started trying to do gameplay content. Now you're probably thinking, what? Wait, I don't see any gameplay content in the oldest catalog of your uploads. Yeah, and you won't, because I was so damn frustrated with them at the time, I deleted all of them. This was before I gained the ethic of trying to never delete my own videos. That was before I gained that principle. Because I was so mad at them. And they were gameplay videos of BioShock 1 and 2. So, yeah. Which, side note, and I'm going to do a video on content that some of my favorite pieces of art in media that I've been re-exploring, and I am so glad to have gone back to them because of how phenomenal they really are. BioShock 1 and 2 are the two best, in my opinion, the two best video games ever made. BioShock 2 especially. But, and I also was doing, for a time, I did a little bit of singing content. Now you can find similar content on the channel as it is now in my earlier uploads. But those initial ones I scrapped. And I think, yeah, I did initially also, I deleted the Minecraft videos initially, but then those were the only ones that I had saved, actually, and then re-uploaded, because actually those videos weren't, even further of how I didn't want to be a YouTuber, those videos were not even intended to be going on YouTube. I was sending those to a friend who loved the game Minecraft and who was very interested in creative builds of building structures, both of mini figurines in real life and online in the digital space in simulators and things of the sort. I was sending those initial videos, the screen recorded Minecraft videos, I was sending those to a friend at first, and they weren't even intended to be on YouTube. Even with the music and everything, with the sound, with the production value that I put into those videos, with actually taking pieces from the soundtracks of BioShock and BioShock 2 and The Last of Us Part 1 and Castle in the Sky. Even with that, yes, I put those in for effect. I didn't to send to my friend. I really wanted them to be immersed. Okay, so after the re-uploaded content pertaining to my Minecraft builds, and then going into actually uploading nearly a year after uploading them, because they were just sitting there. After nearly a year, I decided to try my hand in internet comedy through short format, and you would call it long format in amongst the internet generation, but I don't consider 4 minutes to be long format. I really don't. But I decided to try it. Why? Because it was all the rage in my gaggles of school friends, in my social groups, and I just and because of the content I was consuming and what I saw what I believed it could do, for the reasons I thought certain individuals who were prominent in the online spheres that were doing so, I thought I could maybe make some genuine, impactful, hilarious material out of it. And always with intent. When I started doing internet comedy, I was conscientious of actually trying to purposely make it, good amounts of the content, offensively absurd. Not just some quirky awkwardness of human interactions, superficial display of humanity content, which I've really grown to disdain. I was set on portraying, given my only growing leftist values, left wing, refer to myself as a rising leftist, my left wing moral values, I was conscientious in trying to implement those values into the humor that I was trying to create, without vaguely belittling any one oppressive demographic. I really wanted to actually remove most of it is performative. It's not even actual leftist comedian content. But for those who do, especially those who do identify, the ones who are truthful, with being far left, who had gained amounts of prominence online through comedy because of the spitefulness and lack of empathy towards oppressors within the far left is something I've talked about numerous times. Still stand by. But I wanted to remove that from my very blatant affiliations to left-wing ideology that I was working into my comedy. Trying to. I wanted to remove it. Because I knew that it was not inherent. But when I started doing the comedic skits, that was supposed to stop maybe like a year and a half after I started doing it. It was supposed to end, and not in the way that it ended up concluding in terms of being my regular uploaded material. Not in the way that it happened, as we all know. It was meant to just be an experiment. And I, at the time, at first, I enjoyed doing it. But then, my observations of the global community, as they had been, as I had been doing, so keeping an eye on, trying to keep a more truthfully informative eye on, not from any major mainstream sources, from what I could, I was led astray, sadly. But what I thought was more trustworthy information, I was keeping an eye on global affairs. As I did, I made a whole skit on it, The World in 18 Minutes. That is still one of my favorite older videos. But as I was becoming, as my perceptions towards more truthful realizations were escalating, it started becoming me attempting to make sketch comedy material, or when I eventually started doing commentary, at the time referring to it from certain internet slang as talking point videos, when I started making commentary, initially titled Too Much Talking Twink, I'm still proud of that. The title. As it trekked on, my extreme depression got more and more and more unbearable. To the point, obviously, as those of you who have either been here from the start or have found me and gone back through my history know. It just, everything just, this whole, okay, here's the best way I can describe me becoming like a recurrent YouTube creator. This whole channel is just the product of complete spiraling. Just situational spiraling. And when I trotted off out of the Greater Toronto area, and because I had mentioned that I didn't know if I was even going to keep uploading, and that didn't last long at all, because within a week's time, I decided, yeah, you know what, I want to detail what's going on. When I got to the occurring first, when I got to the city of Peterborough, Ontario. And it just from there, one thing led to another. As the entirety of all ontological essence is, but I mean just more so in terms of decisions I made for what to show and what to do with content creation whilst being primarily living outside. And in the grand scheme of it, at sparse points, having housing. So and for all that time, I didn't reflect on this point. I wasn't consciously thinking about where is this even going to go. and not in like the experimental sense before of just trying out videos. Because again, I knew that I did want that. I wanted that to stop at a certain point. This is not what I wanted to do. Okay. Instead of using the term my life, this is not what I wanted to do in terms of a creative outlet. This is not what I wanted to be my artwork. At least predominantly. This is not what I wanted to be my gift to the world. Again, not my lifestyle. I have no regrets in regards to choosing to become a nomadic vagabond. I do not regret that at all. But in terms of how I presented it, or how this really this like, and also just to clarify, this wasn't what, if anyone was curious, this wasn't what directly incited that. Again, in regards to my morality crisis, I don't know if I've ever fully addressed this little point. Me making it was a part of it, as was clear in the last sketch video, really just feature length film, independent film that I made, titled "When I Tell People I Want to Be a Pornographer and They Wait No." Like, even though this played into my obsession with the contradictions of life, this wasn't what, me creating content was not what incited that. And it wasn't until within the last year and a half, it wasn't until I was it wasn't until like right close to when I was getting ready to leave Quebec City on my travels that I started really introspecting on the fact that, like, I never wanted to do this. And I have a target geographical destination. It was Iqaluit, Nunavut. And what is going to, once I reach there, if I reach there, what's going to become of a damn slice of cake past that point? Because I started the further and further I went, the more psychological clarity that I started gaining, especially after realizing and crafting my theories regarding human nature and society as a constructed force. When all that began transpiring slowly, this channel just, the more and more I got from this location to this location to this location to this location and documenting it, and then also having this video idea for commentary and making that, and then eventually getting back into the swing somewhat of making more I don't want to say scripted, because I have literally never made a script once in my life for any content on here, other than I'm not counting reading my theories, what I typed out, or reading my video game plots, what I had already typed out, because that wasn't just intended for the video. So, but even my and I really do commend myself on this, for my sketch comedy, for my existential video projects, I don't know what else to call them right now, my explorations and showcasing my artistic work on here, like separate, not my documentarian work or my direct commentary work, like videos like that I've made, like a passages reading of In the Garden of Men by John Kupferschmidt, or Be Ungrateful, a improvised holiday poem, or proving optimistic nihilism and absurdism and disproving pessimism with bugs, meaninglessly impactful, like those videos, getting back into making those, or making that type of content. The more and more things kept going, the more that, and the more and more I refined my theoretical material, and I learned more, and nothing has disproved my work at all. The more and more things became amalgamated into it through my communal observations, and how things actually were also not just amalgamated into it, reaffirmed. How things were just confirmed, even more so. The more that a damn slice of cake, the more this channel, just in and of itself, started just becoming moot to me. Now, I know for some of you out there, probably not so. But for me, And the same goes for, when I had access to it, my Pornhub channel. That version of A Damn Slice of Cake. And has also now somewhat been occurring for my Make Love Not Porn channel that I'm currently uploading to. The more it all just became very... It's become minuscule in the larger context of all of what I've been doing. It's like the channel itself, it's an odd metaphysical thing to describe, but the channel itself, is not the focus of itself. If that paradox makes sense to people who comprehend the terms I'm using. Like, it's just... that's the thing as well. It both had... This channel has both had obvious... I think these concepts are innate to all of, well, human behavior, but to simplify, just as it, in terms of very obvious layout, this channel has both had constant consistency, but that consistency has been so so unmatching, I guess. The channel's called A Damn Slice of Cake. It has nothing to do with a damn slice of cake. Some uploads I've woven in. Some uploads are full commentary, yet others are full documentation of an area, or it's documentation spliced together with a large portion of commentary, which could have probably been a whole commentary video in and of itself. Or in those exploration videos, it's not even any commentary at all. Almost, it's silent footage. I need to make a playlist for those as well. There's certain parts of my municipal explorations where I've taken it upon myself to have some episodes where I just remain mostly silent for the footage and let the environment speak for itself. And now I've done actual drawing. I've gone back into drawing, and I've started uploading that in both video format and to image posting. It's just, it's just like everything about what this channel has just really gotten away from itself. More than I've seen anything, and I know, like, we can all, people will argue, yeah, everyone many people on YouTube who've done it as a career, who've gained some prominence, who have been promoted intentionally to that prominence for population manipulation, but who have gotten to a point where everyone, okay, yeah, everyone who has had a channel for a long period of time who's done certain content has changed in major forms. Yeah, but something that I have, from what I can find, what is shown to me, what I come across is, even with the eventual alterations that do occur for most individuals who do YouTube or do content creation long term, online content creation long term, there is still, with most of their channels, there's still some of the initial elements of what they were doing with their material are still there at the end. Like, if okay, let's use an example like gaming channels. When the craze of gaming was promoted through the online spheres, yeah, many major gamers have, very obviously their channels have evolved and changed, but they still have the essence, they still embody the cultural presentation of a gamer. That element through their whole channel's history, for many of them, known creators, indie creators, ones who are not seen prominently, even them, that element really hasn't shifted. There's still a consistency to that. For literally, for now, going to a decade and a half, or nearly, no, even, well, I don't think, no, well, not 2 decades yet. Gaming online hasn't been okay. Gaming on how it's come about on YouTube has not been around for that long yet. We're nearly there, not yet. But not for me. Yes, obviously there's similar elements to when I began of my personhood and things of the sort, but I there there was never a point where it just, quite literally, because it couldn't say the same. I wouldn't allow it with everything that I chose to do. And I when I say that I've done I've made great achievements. I have. I just in my movements, now that I'm all the way back where I started, after everywhere I went, everything I did, what I did show and what I didn't show. Because I did not just walk those in my exploration videos. I did not just walk that in all the areas that I showcase, the different districts of each cityscape, or town I was in, or village. I did not just walk that whole length, like those long, like going on those long ventures in various subdivisions, different portions of an area. I didn't just do that for those videos. Like, that was a daily for me. Those walks, that was a daily. Most of them were a daily. Only a couple. Yeah, probably only a couple leaning exceptions in terms of what I showcased. Only 2 leaning exceptions. Those on-foot treks were a constant every day. I did not request most often, and I didn't even have somebody to drive me certain places where I was living. Again, okay, except for one of my employment positions, except for that. Oh, well, okay, technically 2. But anyway, I just going about in the places I was. I didn't take municipal transit nearly at all, if I could help it. I walked on foot, day in, day out, from this portion of a city to that portion, and then back, and then around, and then to an adjacent area, and then right back to where I was before. And I did, with the exception of the village of St. Paul de Montmagny, I knew, like, right when I arrived in a place, I'm going to say a city, because most of the places I've been to are cityscapes, either major metropolitan areas or smaller cities, some bordering on large towns. Like, I didn't wait around to begin venturing. The second I got there, if I got there late at night, I finally arrived in a certain area late at night, then I would set up camp, and I'd wait till morning to venture out. But either on the day I got there or the day after arriving, I got straight to work exploring without recording. I just was like, okay, this is my campsite for this area for now. until I move, I naturally progress to a different area, or law enforcement, private owners force me to vacate, and then I have to find another area. But I set out immediately. I didn't stay huddled in a specific portion of a city. I moved around, and I got so much done in one day. I knew in like 1 or 2 I'm serious, in 1 or 2 days, I knew a good portion of the district that I was in, or the borough, the district, the neighborhood, whatever term you personally use for municipal sectors. I knew it like the back of my hand, like within 2 or 3 days, most of the area. That's how much walking I did. I mean it everywhere. Let's start with, okay. Yeah, okay. Crow's Landing, obviously, it's a village, not large, explored, and I've been up there multiple times, given that's where my extended family's cottage was. I already knew it fairly well. But the town of Lakefield, the village of Warsaw, the town of Norwood, village of McCracken's Landing, Ottawa, in the district I was staying in, predominantly in Orleans, in Gatineau, in Lachute, in Laval, Montreal, Longueuil, St. Hyacinthe, Drummondville, Victoriaville, Lévis, Quebec City, and going along the north coast in even for when I was there for just a short period of time, depending on the size of the area, in Baie St. Paul, in Tetewassek, in Lèche Escomine, Baie-Comeau, and then Labrador City and Wabush. The amount of just the mileage I got that I didn't show was astronomical to me, for me. I genuinely cannot believe, now again, being back here, I cannot believe all the places I've been. I can't believe the places that I've set foot on, the land that I've traversed. I really cannot. And yet I did it. Because unconsciously I was compelled to. I know that. Very much. And I know morally as well. I know the reasons behind why. Because I genuinely care about knowing the land I'm in, knowing the community, knowing how the societal systems around me operate in my immediacy, not just on a grander scale within mass globalization. I mean just in my immediacy. And it's actually very haunting to me. It's haunting. I I always, for the longest time since my youth, so enveloped in geography, and I had so many places that I wanted to go to and travel, still do, if I'm ever afforded the opportunity to, in ethical means, on my own terms. And so I I just, okay, here's another way to describe it. I would actively, throughout my entire teenage adolescence, I would, after coming home from school, or even before, early in the morning when I wake up at the crack of dawn, sluggishly, having set 40 different alarms, still do, on my device to wake me up. And then those 40 different alarms wouldn't work, and one of my parents would just have to come and shake me awake. Um, Before heading off to school, or after school was concluded, or some event in the day had concluded, or when I had my initial first employment, after work, I would literally stare on my device for moments at aerial maps, predominantly Google Maps, and I'd zoom in, I'd zoom out of various nations of the world that I was intrigued by, of places that I was studying, or even just within Canada. And so domestically and internationally, I would zoom in on places, and I would stare at them, and I would stare at the altered, very much altered, but still somewhat of an actual satellite overview of just imagery of different geographical locations. I would stare at them longingly, and I would fantasize about being there, about any information I knew that I could find online about specific areas, and I would just drum up what is it like to be there. I would think, what would it be like to be there? And I would also fantasize about me for the places that I wanted to visit, traveling there someday. Or I would even fantasize about starting a life there. I would fantasize about moving to specific nations outside of Canada, and also outside of Canada and the United States, the only two countries I've ever set foot in. I would I'd fantasize about immigrating there and making my life there. And I it was many days, for many days, it was what really kept me mentally sound. I would just, and whilst I was in school, system of corruption that is so deep rooted that I just despise with all my hatred, that I have created an entire systematic outline for its abuse. I would daydream whilst in class, not listening, not pretending. The defense mechanism, I was consciously pretending as if I was taking in whatever the fuck the teachers were droning on about. But whilst pretending as if I was really absorbing what was being displayed to me, I would just be drumming up fantasies of being away from this area, being in a land, not in, and again, not in a romanticizing sense, not in a over romanticizing sense, as if, given my knowledge and only my growing knowledge of vast interconnected international societal corruption, not glorifying these nations, fantasizing about being there and experiencing the actual communal cultures and the turmoils that were going on there, that I had information in regards to. Like, I never drummed up like this dreamy-eyed, this rose-colored view of other nation states. I wanted to be there and be immersed in their social harmonies and disasters. I wanted both more than the social harmonies and disasters of my own homeland, of where I was raised. And I know, and I know why. Just to briefly describe, I don't want to focus on it here, but because of all of my tumultuous past, my heightened intellect, my social relations, because of all of it, how much I discovered at such a young age, becoming, specifically about my own homelands, becoming tired of it. So tired of it. And I'm even more tired of it now, after having returned from my expedition crossing one third of the entire nation of Canada, the second biggest country in the world. And I'm still only 21 years old. My, oh my. you're gonna see me. Heads up. I should have given a heads up before. I'm gonna be pausing this video, getting up to pause it quite frequently, because yes, camera also in regards to this experiment I'm doing is still I've still, if the screen is the traditional placement, the screen lens is the traditional placement for my commentary content, well, I'm still tempting with the inverse of that, so looking at the hind lenses. Okay. I think I've talked enough about all the reasons why I will be ending a damn slice of cake. In about a year. And just to state, I don't, in terms of my Quora account, my Quora page, for my writings, I don't, that one, I'm not sure. Maybe a damn slice of cake will stay in written form, but, or maybe I'll create a separate page and just move everything over there. I don't know. I'll have to work that out. So, other than the channel, what's going on with me right now? What has been going on? What will be transpiring in the coming months? Well, since having returned to my childhood area, though not living in the city of Toronto anymore, now currently residing in the city of Pickering, Ontario, in the Durham region, which I will talk about further in a bit. What has been going on since being back here? Well, I talked about my extremely poor health over the past few months. How I became immunocompromised, how I gained leaky gut syndrome from an accidental overdose. I gained polyneuropathy from it, gained cardiac problems, I gained liver damage, I gained thyroid problems, I gained lymphatic issues. I gained the works of damage, which was incredibly trying, but thankfully I am getting close to a full recovery. With the aid of naturopathic healing, which I had looked into pretty well as, well, final resort, and I'm so thankful that I did. I gained it from vaccination poisoning. And I've been coming more to terms with that. And okay, I'm on the mend after this whole incident. But other than my physiological health, what has occurred socially? Well, when I got back to Ontario, after being flown here from Labrador via the incredibly generous offer and actual enacted attempt to bring me back to Ontario by my parents, I arrived at Pearson International Airport in the city of Mississauga. One of my parents and my sibling met me there. They drove me back to where they were residing. And since then, I have been continuously housed and residing with them, with my two parents and my sibling. Being reunited again. Our intimacy was somewhat strained, I get it, awkwardly strained at first. Naturally. 2.5 years of me being gone, of us being away from each other. Well, there was just a constant looming of there was a looming elephant in the room. In terms of our dynamics, what had changed and what had remained. as the months trekked on, after I became ill, with me trying to find employment, as if you recall, couldn't obtain it in Labrador City or Wabush, no matter how hard I tried. Things eventually escalate in terms of unresolved tension between all of us. We all have a lot of subconscious complexes with each other that still certain amounts need to be addressed. Now are acknowledged, but not really accepted, but we haven't really delved into them. We had our major outbursts, which, well, I had mentioned in the video update things are not so uncertain anymore, returning to Toronto after 2.5 years of adventures, that I was afraid of nearly that exact thing happening. That I would return to my family and we'd all just be unconsciously looking for what was there years before. Despite over long distance having reconciled in large ways and mending certain tensions. So that's somewhat transpired. But after tearful moments, we were able to make sure that the new bond didn't come loose. I won't lie, there have been points where it almost seemed like a repeat was going to occur of me leaving again, not on some major expedition, but leaving the household. But that never came to pass. thankfully. And I am incredibly, incredibly. One second. I am really thankful for how we've been able to make amends, despite whatever aggression and aggravation comes that's still lingering. How we've been able to maintain ourselves. We've I've managed to make an impact, clearly now living in our new residence with them, in regards to lifestyle alterations. They've been buying more organically, provably organically produced food because of me returning. They've been adhering to better cleanliness practices because of my returning. And I've been I'm making what compromises I can with them, working collaboratively with them. For all our mutual benefit. And we've also, certain points we've gained back certain family activities. Very simple activities that we all share in practicing. Which, again, I am beyond grateful for. I really do realize how fortunate I am in this regard. Most individuals who have fled their homes or who have been disowned by family members, who have themselves enacted cutting off communications. And most specifically those within the homelessness communities of the world. Most of them will not get the great privilege that I was given in regards to socio-environmental effects. Most will not receive, their family dynamics will not undergo, will not have enough influences to alter the course of how their whole narrative, their life's narrative plays out. Will not have the opportunity to alter it from a very terrible, horrible outcome to a glorious one. Most won't. Not just most don't. I'm using that word very much intentively. Most won't. So that's where my position is in regards to our family unit's foundation. What about my employment situation? Well, when I got back here, I did managed to find employment in the month of February at a local southeastern Mexican restaurant where I had gained the occupation of being a line cook. A job that I'm very familiar with. It was the worst working experience I have ever had. I'm not, yeah, it surpasses, as far as I'm concerned, it surpasses not on a level of not on a level of not on a level of corrupt activities, but on a level of my personal affiliations to said employers. I'll put it that way. It surpasses my employment with Ferme de Serrange, with working under the Talbot family in St. Paul de Montmagny on the dairy farm. It surpassed that. And I was fired from that job within 2 weeks. Because of me experiencing an accidental overdose, not caused by anything on the worksite. Just to point that out. So I then went 3 more months with no employment, desperately searching for another position, predominantly within the restaurateur industry, as that's what I have been locked into as of right now. And I eventually found another post at a urban American cuisine themed restaurant. Also a local restaurant. Thankfully. At the very least. I only worked there for a week's time, but even though it was for such a brief period, so far the employers of that establishment have been the best that I've ever had in my life. That's not to demerit the incredibly compassionate and generous care I receive from my employers at the Creperie canteen in Quebec City. And it's also not to demerit my employers with the restaurant job I had in McCracken's Landing here in Ontario. But these individuals, they were the most attentive, they were the most endearing. Me and the owner shared very direct, similar experiences in regards to chronic systemic health problems. I was in the midst of suffering from systematic inflammation from leaky gut, and they have been battling Crohn's disease for the longest time. So in the realm of specifically digestive illness. And I was struggling to keep up. I was really, in that whole week, despite the kindness of my employers, I was struggling to maintain myself, despite having done similar jobs in the past, and managed to push through them. And I know exactly why, because of trying to heal my physical dysfunction at the time, having found said naturopathic healer and being put onto a supplementation protocol to follow, as well as me trying to make dietary alterations to eat better prepared whole foods. But on top of that, emotionally, which the non-duality of psychology and physiology, why I was so disorganized, couldn't keep up, was because I was mentally exhausted, and with everything that was going on, I was just at a frustration point of having enough of this. I could maintain, I did maintain working back-breaking labor, excruciating labor. One time, specifically back to the Talbot family, one time gaining amounts of inflammation in my knuckles to a point where it started to cause, it was on the verge of causing early onset arthritis. Very obviously, for the time that I was living in St. Paul de Montmagny, early onset arthritis. Most likely rheumatoid. Thankfully, me being able to heal it on my own. But I was able to work labor-intensive jobs whilst I was a nomad. I was able to, because I was overall, with just being an adventurer, investigating things day to day in what ways I could, exploring, experiencing my environment, being psychologically fulfilled enough, having varied enough experience of conscious motivation and conscious apathy, swinging back and forth whilst I was on the road. I was able to maintain doing exhaustive jobs because of that. Because I was mentally, overall, fulfilled at many points. I would have enough points of uttermost fulfillment, subconsciously and consciously. But after everything falling away, in a sense, with how things concluded for my expedition, I couldn't bear it anymore. I was fed up from the first bit of employment that I gained whilst having been moved back to Ontario. That was already trying enough. And it really hit, and I was still, and I'll address this, still maintaining the slight prospect that I might be able to gain back my nomadic living outside for the warmer weather in dual time. But that didn't end up panning out, and that won't. With all that combined, I knew that this is not becoming my life. I was in the state of mind that no, okay, this, even if it takes a while, even if one day I am able to acquire the ability to become nomadic again, wherever I am, this is not becoming my life even for a portion of time. I'm not being these terrible, terrible, terrible jobs. I am not being consumed by them. And I am not destroying my health. Absolutely not destroying my health for them. No way. Not a chance. I'm not ruining myself for any position of employment. I was already committed to that, but especially so now. So I ended up quitting. I explained my reasoning to my employers, and they were very sympathetic to my reasoning behind resigning. And I'd also related to my family, and they were understanding as well. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what I've tried to do to obtain employment here at this point in time, or now going into the later half of the year. But I am determined to not gain labor-intensive employment ever again if I can help it. Now, sadly, that is most of the low-income employment. But, okay. As of now, since leaving that job, I am still unemployed. I've still been looking. For a time, we were looking at. I was trying to find clerical work, if it was possible for me to obtain, secretary positions. That didn't pan out. Now we're back to looking at restaurateur work, but for anyone who takes me on, I have specific demands. If it can't be met, then до свидания. So right now, I still have no employment. I am very much impoverished. When I left Toronto, I had a total net worth of $22,000 to my name in my accounts. That dwindled going further as I was living in Crow's Landing, in the rural areas, and then making my way living in Ottawa. And with employment I had there. And when I left the city of Ottawa in April of 2023, I was down to roughly $9,000 to $8,000 to my name. That slightly rose by another 1,000 or so when I was in Montreal because of a sale of one of my vehicles after I left it behind. But even so, from just overall, from Gatineau, from the city of Gatineau to the city of Lévis, I was living on a budget, and I budgeted myself all the way from Gatineau to Lévis on roughly $8,000.